Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. Just so you know, new design of the Soul Not For Sale. Got a couple new designs. Go check it out. IamCoachColin.com. Link in the description. Link in the comment section. It's the pinned comment. Let's get into it. We got Mark Zuckerberg talking with Joe Rogan about kids and tech. So Mark Zuckerberg is going to be talking about how he handles that type of thing. I'm going to be talking about how many times I've heard Joe Rogan and how he handles it. And then we're going to be showing some pitfalls of social media and kids, because this is something that we're going to have to think about. Because I don't know how I actually have no idea how I want to handle this. My instinct is just no. That's my instinct, but
I agree. But then there's pitfalls for that as well.
And if you watch to the end, you are going to see those pitfalls and you're going to understand exactly why. If you have young kids, you may want to keep them away. And it's more than just the imagery. Way more than that. I'm going to show you guys. Watch till the end. You're going to see some wild clips. I got 3 videos for you. I want to get into the first one right now. Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg. Let's go.
How many people are on? How do you limit your social media use? How do you do it?
Me personally, I mean, I'm just doing so many things that in practice there aren't as many hours in the day. But and my kids, I haven't had to think about it quite as much yet because they're pretty young. 6 and 5, right? Augie just turned 5 this weekend. But it's so I mean, they use. I want them to use technology for different things. I mean, I teach them how to code. I think it's like an outlet for creativity. I mean, Augie especially. I mean, Max likes building things. Augie thinks about it as art. So whenever like every night I try to do bedtime with them religiously. So I try to like end my meetings in order to be able to put them down and I ask them like what activity they want to do. Do you want to read or do you want to wrestle or whatever that then and Augie's just like, oh, I want to do code art. It's like that's such an interesting way to think about it. I always think about coding as like you're building something, and she just thinks about it as making the computer make art. So it's just like so anyway. I think it's good for them to get that exposure, but I don't know, these things. It's not everything that you're doing on a computer or screen isn't the same. There's a lot of research into well-being that shows that there's like, are you actively engaging, and are you engaging with a person? Are you building relationships, or are you just consuming? And if you're building a relationship, then that is associated typically with a lot of long-term benefits and well-being, right? Because I mean, the relationships that we have in our lives, I view that as like the meaning, right? That's like that to me is like the point, and that I think over time is what generally creates happiness for people and prosperity. But if you're just sitting there and consuming stuff, I mean, it's not necessarily bad, but it generally isn't associated with all the positive benefits that you get from being actively engaged or building relationships.
Right, and so, you could engage with people actively online and build digital relationships. And especially as this technology improves, you could actually have meaningful experiences with someone's avatar.
Yeah, so I mean,
it's very weird.
So I just want to make it so that the experiences that we're having aren't just these like passive things. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, there's this like, people spend a lot of time with screens today. It's basically computers, phones, and TVs, and I'm always amazed because I spend all my time on phones and computers that for Americans still almost half the time that they spend on screens is TVs more than phones or computers. So
really?
I mean, yes, I mean I think it might have just tipped to being in the last few years to being more phones and computers than TV, but TV is huge.
Because I know like Netflix and YouTube, I think a giant amount of their stuff is on phones.
It's a lot on phones, but it's a lot on TVs too, and a lot of people are still just watching cable or different things like that. And so when you think about new experiences, I actually think the first thing that they're going to go do is eat TV, right? And like and kind of the more passive things. So when people talk about being worried about the time that people are spending in different kind of social experiences, I mean, the time has to come from somewhere. I think it's worth looking at where it's coming from. If it's coming from sleep, that's probably not great, right? If it's coming from exercise, like I wouldn't be that happy with that. If it's coming from TV, I'm pretty fine with that, right? Yeah. I think that's actually maybe a net improvement in well-being for people overall if you're shifting from this more beta kind of consuming state to just being actually actively engaged, potentially building relationships. And there's just a ton of TV time to eat, right? So I think before we worry about this kind of consuming more and more of people's time, I actually just think looking at the mix of what people do today is good. And I mean, my goal for these next set of platforms, they are going to be more immersive and hopefully they'll be more useful. But I don't necessarily want the people to spend more time with computers. I just want the time that people spend with screens to be better. Because I mean, today so much of it is like you're just sitting around and I don't know, in this like beta state consuming stuff. And I think that's like I don't know. So you asked me, how do I control my own social media time or my time on this stuff? It's like, I do a bunch of social media. I do a lot of messaging. I really don't watch that much TV. And that's because I just don't have that much. I don't know. I find it puts me in this really weird mental state to unless there's something that I'm just like really attached to, right? So like I really like watching like UFC, for example. But that's because I also like doing the sport, right? So it's like I have some kind of connection to it. But I don't know, just like sitting around watching. It's I don't usually like get into a lot of TV shows or stuff.
Have you always been a very physical person? Because I follow you on Instagram.
Yeah.
I see wake.
So, oh geez, sorry, hit your table there. So that's how he's handling it with his kids. He's letting it happen. He's not really stepping away from it. Joe Rogan has often said this many times, he does not keep his kids from social media at all.
Yeah.
He's like, it's something that's there. And he's like, I want them to know how to use it. He's like, I don't want them to be behind in a sense. He wants them to have be on par with everybody else in terms of how it's used and everything.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, funny enough, when you compare Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg seems to have the more balanced approach, where he just wants the time to be spent in a better way. He doesn't want to overdo it. That being said, Joe Rogan has teenagers, so maybe
it's harder.
Yeah, it's a little harder to step in front of a teenager and be like, hey, stop doing this.
And at a certain point too, like if you say no, they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then they learn to hide things from you.
Yeah.
Which is also not good.
Yeah, it's true.
So at a certain point when you know they're going to be doing it because all their friends are doing it and kids are silly like that.
Yeah.
Like it's probably better
so bad
to give them some allowance to do that and have conversations about it in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's true. But here's the thing, right? I said, if you watch, we got two more clips I'm going to show you. There's more to it than just what they see. And there's even more to it than the time they spend on it. Because Mark Zuckerberg's right. Like if they're connecting with a best friend in a meaningful way, I guess it's good. Mm-hmm. I guess so. But it's more than that. There is, I have it even written down. There's predators, right? There's sexual imagery. Those are two things. That's the two big things that every parent is like, I don't want to have happen.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about. Your kid, when they get a phone, they become an individual, right? It's like a SIN number, this, that. So when they sign into something, they're exposing themselves to the terms and conditions.
Yes.
It's not you that has to handle that. It's them that now has to handle that. They have agreed to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big thing that people don't think about. Huge thing people don't think about.
It's wild to think too, like, I think the youngest age that somebody can be arrested is like 12.
Yeah.
But there's probably kids younger than that on social media.
Oh, for sure.
And the reason that you can't be arrested under the age of 12 is because you can't decipher between right and wrong because you're not old enough to understand that concept yet.
Yes.
But then if you're 10 years old and on social media and agreeing to all those terms and conditions, like that's a very adult thing to do.
Yes.
When especially most adults don't read it. I don't read them.
No one does.
No, exactly.
No one does. There was actually, I believe it's called The Social Dilemma. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. They calculated and it would take like a month.
To read everything?
For all the things that you agree to. All the pages that there are. Because you don't see it because a lot of people just kind of press a thing and it goes right down.
Yeah.
But the amount of pages for you to agree to everything that you agree to, it would take you a month of the year to read. And
from what I understand, anything you post on platforms like Facebook belong to Facebook.
Yeah.
Forever.
That's what I've heard. That if Facebook chooses, like, now you're going to be an ad in Germany because you appeal to that audience, then they could do that. That's what I've heard. That's what my understanding is. But the reason I bring up terms and conditions is because I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen to TikTok's terms and conditions. That's what the video I have queued up right here is. So here, listen to this. It's wild.
Rabbit hole yesterday.
Yeah. Turn it up.
Stayed home, smoked a little weed, and I started reading up on TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm going to read you this because this is so crazy.
Is it good or bad?
Bad.
So what are you saying? It's a bad place to be?
Listen to this. This is from TikTok's privacy policy.
All right.
It said, we collect certain information about the device you use to access the platform. such as your IP address, user region. This is really crazy. User agent, mobile carrier, time zone settings, identifiers for advertising purpose, model of your device, the device system, network type, device IDs, your screen resolution and operating system, app and file names and types. So all your apps and all your file names, all the things you have filed away on your phone, they have access to that. File names and types, keystroke patterns or rhythms. So they're monitoring your keystrokes, which means they know every fucking thing you type.
Wow.
Battery state, audio settings, and connected audio devices where you log in from multiple devices. We will be able to use your profile information to identify your activity across devices. We may also associate you with information collected from devices other than those you use to log into the platform, meaning they can use other computers that you're not even using to log into TikTok. They can suck the data off that. That's what you're agreeing to when you download and start using TikTok. That's wild.
It's insane. My question would be, do you think they did that? They created TikTok just on purpose to have all that?
100%.
Wow.
I think they saw that people are addicted to social media, and they came up with the most addictive version of social media, which is TikTok. It's the most addictive by far. It's the best for sucking people in. My kids are fucking hook, line, and sinkered on that shit. And I know a lot of other people are hook, line, and sinkered to grown people.
It's good.
It's good. And it starts playing things immediately. The moment you turn it on, it's like playing you a new thing, playing you a new thing. You're like, ah! And you just sucked into it. And all the while, it's monitoring your keystrokes, your audio settings. But by audio settings, that means it has access to your microphone. That means it's listening to you right.
Just tell me how it ends,
now.
Man.
It ends with China having all of your data. And if they develop
if they get all the data,
digital currency,
then what?
Well, you're fucked. Because if they look, what's going on in China? I don't know if you've seen this, but they pulled tanks in front of banks to stop people from fucking rioting because they just took all their money. Did you see all that? Yeah. Did you see that shit? No. Oh my God. They have shut down people's accounts, and they're doing a social credit score system in China, and they have digital currency.
So I just wanted crazy. Right? So here's the thing. That's what your kid's really signing up to. So as much as you think like, oh man, what are they going to see? You know, what twerking videos are they going to see? Blah, blah, blah. OnlyFans ladies, all that stuff. That's what they're really signing up for. That's what they're really signing up for. And then you don't have TikTok. As a parent, let's say you're older, you have kids, you don't have TikTok. Now you might ask, when he was talking about how are they going to get data from other devices that you don't even log into TikTok with? Well, because they have your IP.
Yeah,
it's basically like
network.
You're giving them permission to like hack everything.
Yes.
Basically.
You're signing away all of your privacy rights.
Yeah. Your digital soul is like up for grabs. That thing.
That's
crazy.
True.
It's crazy. That's what you're letting a 10-year-old have. That's the real thing. That's the thing that really trips me out. I was thinking of this, like I wrote it down and I'm like, what are the real pitfalls? That's the biggest one. Not just, and you know, obviously it's just as bad for you as an adult, but for a kid, for a little kid that doesn't even understand. They just think this is the thing I click to have the thing I want. They have no idea what they're signing up for.
That's crazy.
No idea. And then what happens from there? Like what happens when algorithms get more aggressive, when they get more invasive? And you're like, well, I want no part of that. And it's like, you already agreed.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you can't take back your agreement.
You already signed in. You're already signed up for that. And think about that. Now, how many users does TikTok have?
Oh, probably so many. It's probably ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Of course it's ridiculous. 150 million.
I'm surprised there's not more.
That's just
Is
the U.S.
That just okay?
That's just the U.S.
I was going to say it has to be close to 1 billion.
And then, much lower in Canada for sure. Europe, probably not as much. China, probably a little massive, but they have their own version, like he was saying. Yeah. So you could probably gauge like 200 million accounts, 200 million devices, 200 million households. Because once you get into one device, you're allowed throughout the whole household.
True.
Keystrokes, microphone, everything.
That's insane.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Because like again, like massive amount of adults as well, massive amount of kids, everywhere from, like you brought up, 10 years old up until 30.
Like probably older than that.
Yeah, of course. I know people older than that have TikTok.
Yeah.
And nobody knows. Nobody knows about this.
Or they just don't care because they're so addicted to the content.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, Joe Rogan said this. I'm sure there's many people. He gets 11 million downloads an episode, so at least 11 million people saw this. And let's say they all told one person. Most of those people don't care.
No.
They're just like, whatever, I have the thing. Some of them don't even have it. But still, that's the real big thing that you're opening your kid up to, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a big privacy issue.
Yeah, that's the real argument. So if you want to argue with your kids, show them that.
But kids aren't going to care either.
Well, just be like, this is why you're not getting it.
Yeah, that's why you have to protect kids from that, because they can't weigh the risk versus reward.
Yeah, you have to really let them know. Weird. Really weird. My how old was she? She had to be 10 when when TikTok first started, it was just kids. There was no ladies twerking and doing all sorts of nonsense. It was just kids. My niece had that. I think she was like 10 when she had it.
Yeah, I remember. She like asked you to do stuff with her.
Yeah, she was like making me do dances and stuff.
That was cute.
She made me do dances and stuff. But like,
but yeah, so like she grew up with that. Like most of her, like all of her teenage years.
Yeah. 100%.
She grew up having TikTok, and that was like a big thing for her.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if my nephew does, and I have more nephews and nieces.
That's
like,
crazy.
Who knows which ones of them have it? And whew,
I don't even think I got Instagram until I was like 17 or 18.
Yeah, I don't know when I got Instagram. I got Instagram around the time I got onto YouTube. And I started my YouTube channel, like I created it. Maybe I didn't post anything, but I started it in 2014. So it was around the same time-ish. Around there. I was posting stuff. And listen, this is the thing. A lot of people are like, oh, well, China, they're crazy like that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe Instagram and Facebook aren't as invasive, maybe. But it's all the same type of stuff.
It is.
And that's the real thing you're opening your kids up to. I thought this was going to be a more wholesome episode until I realized, and we're right back into the same bag of things. What can I say? 150 users. I do have another video, but what do you have? You said you had something.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about like the actual negative effects of social media on kids.
Yeah. That's all I thought we'd be talking about until I realized the terms and conditions.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, the biggest one is just mental health issues, because it's been linked to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and some other mental health diagnoses in children.
Of course.
And that can be because of things like cyberbullying, like pressure to maintain an image online, and just exposure to unrealistic standards.
100%. It's very funny you say that, because I have to do that. Like I upload content every day on here and on X, but they're shows, it's a little different. But everyone my age, I don't know anyone else doing this. Whereas as a kid, everybody kind of feels like they're this, not to say like I'm not a star or anything, but they feel like they're like these TikTok social media influencers. Like
we've seen some on Dr. Phil even who like,
yeah, they're crazy.
He won't even like talk to his mom because she doesn't have a following.
But and that's like a more exaggerated version. And I could argue even like, I mean, the same people, Dr. Phil's in the same bed with the people who own TMZ. So
yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
You're not real. You're not a real doctor. Like the Catch Me Outside girl was signed to the record label that is owned, or like the same record label is in cahoots with TMZ, in cahoots with Dr. Phil. Yeah. So she was literally on Dr. Phil as a plant to launch her career as a rapper, which then extends. She's in a 360 contract, which means they get 360 degrees of everything she does, which made her a name for a while till she turned 18, got on OnlyFans, and has made $50 million since.
Oh, jeez. On OnlyFans? I didn't know she was on OnlyFans.
It kind of shows society, but like the day she came out, like she started it the day she turned 18.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. And she made $16 million. Like
Oh
the
my
first
God.
day, week, something like that. Yeah. So
Ew.
so it just means there's a lot of guys that were waiting.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, a lot. And it just, yeah, all of that.
18 is like still in high school. Like you're a child.
Yeah. You're old enough to start it, but that's what they did. So that whole thing, if you ever know about the Catch Me Outside girl, that was all fake. Dr. Phil is just like Anderson Cooper. If you know about mainstream media, he's the same thing. He's not a doctor.
Yeah.
The people he's talking to usually aren't real. That was a whole setup.
Interesting.
Truman Show stuff. Weird stuff. Anyway, we took a side there. So that was a side quest. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another one of the big issues is just privacy concerns, and that kids don't really understand the risks of what they're putting up online.
Yeah.
And especially like in this climate, like there's so many more predators that we hear about.
Mm-hmm.
And they're posting their locations and where they go to school
Yeah,
and pictures of all their friends.
Yeah.
It's not smart.
It's really not. It's really crazy. Because I forget, we just heard it. I forget what we were listening to. But, you know, like some person could see their profile enough and be like, well, I know that she's friends with Kelly and Johnny and some other person, and be like, hey, I'm this person's dad. Hey, this, that. Remember, like, I go to the school there. I picked you guys. They could do a bunch of stuff and like trick kids into certain situations.
Yeah.
Just based on watching them on social media.
Yeah, everything's gone so crazy. I even told you I was worried about those like baby on board stickers for cars.
Yeah, you mentioned that. You mentioned that. That was smart.
Because people can tell like where you have a baby, so they can follow you.
Yeah.
And they follow like moms into supermarkets.
Yeah. That's very wild. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. But
Isn't
yeah,
that freaky?
And then it's very freaky. And then you go into privacy concerns again. It's like there's deep fakes as well now.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's someone going to do with a deep fake?
Yeah.
You know, what are they going to do with that? What site are they going to upload that? What body are they going to attach that face to?
What are they going to have that body doing?
Yeah, exactly. It's wild. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to kids and that. I saw this man. I'll let you go on. Sorry. And I have another clip here that I have loaded ready. This guy's talking about some of the same stuff you are. But I saw a guy, he was talking about in order to have that stop happening with his kids, to keep his kids from social media, he was like, I want to offer them a life that's more compelling. You know, he's like, I want to say no the same way I would say no to them smoking or drinking. He's like, this is in the same bag of things. And it kind of really is. Some parents do it. Some parents are maniacs, but they'll be letting their kids like drink coffee at like 10 years old and like weird stuff like that. And it's like, it's the same thing. Like caffeine's a drug. Social media has the same addictive properties as caffeine.
Yep.
Like it makes your brain do the exact same thing, you know? It's, and it can have you crash the exact same way. Social media, way worse. The crash from social media can be drastically worse than caffeine or any drug.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids that have, you know, passed away because of things that happen to them on social media, bullying that's happened to them on social media.
Absolutely.
So it's tough because at the same time we want to homeschool and it's like, well, how are they going to connect? Well, obviously they're going to want to connect through social media and, you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we'll just lie and say we don't have the internet. We'll be rich and we'll just lie and say we don't have enough money for the internet and we don't have enough money for phones. We just don't got it.
And we just like hide ours in like Nokia cases.
Yeah.
Camouflage. Yeah.
In bags of broccoli, we hide our phones.
Yeah. And they're like, Mom and Dad really like broccoli.
Yeah. Something. Listen, before I let you go on, I just want to play this clip. This gentleman has a lot of weird things to say. You mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's go.
Thing that I point out in the book is that
let's turn it up.
So as we evolved, boredom is this evolutionary discomfort that basically told us whatever you're spending your time on right now, it's not an efficient use of your time. So go find something else. Now, in the past, this would be like, let's say you're picking berries from a bush. You've picked the easiest to pick ones. Well, if we didn't have this cube of boredom, we'd be like reaching into the very back for the berries that are hard to pick, but they become successively harder to pick because we've picked all these different ones, right? Boredom would kick on and be like, hey, your return on your time invested has worn thin. Move on to another bush, right? But nowadays, with this influx of media we have, people spend 11 hours a day engaging with digital media.
Is that real?
Yeah, 11, and that's the average. So
What?
You want to hear an even crazier thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a professor at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and one of the classes I teach is an intro class. So it's got about 150 students, and it's a media class I teach in the journalism department. First day of class, I'll talk about how things have changed with media. You know, it's like we lived 2.5 million years with no media in our lives, and now it's become our lives. And then I will ask, all right, I want everyone to pull out your phone right now. I want you to look at your screen time. Tell me how much you have. Who thinks they have the highest? We'll start to go through people. I've had people, 7 hours, 45 minutes, 8 hours, 50 minutes, 9 hours, 16 minutes. It's like, that's your entire day, all on that cell phone, right? So nowadays, when we have this discomfort of boredom kick in, we have a super easy escape from it, right? We're not forced to be like, okay, what am I doing with my time? Is there something better I could be doing? We just pull out our phone. And you see this, right? Anytime people have one moment of solitude or inactivity, it's like, oh, might as well just check my phone.
It's brutal when you see people on dates.
Oh,
They're not even talking to each other. They're just looking at each other's phones.
Yeah.
Go, wow.
People at dinner. It's like,
yeah. It's like you're in front of an actual person.
Yeah.
And
But that's the part I wanted to play about the boredom.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then you don't properly assess what you should be doing with your time. And that's something, I mean, that's for everybody, but that could be detrimental for a kid.
For sure.
That can really mess up a kid.
I found it interesting how he said too, like the screens at dinner. When I used to work in restaurants,
yeah,
so often it was the kids were like on iPads or something because it keeps them quiet.
For sure.
And then I would come over and try and serve them food, and they didn't care at all about the food. They wouldn't move. They would get upset that their parents were moving their iPad to put the food down in front of them.
For sure.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you start them off young, you know what I mean? Like, you start anybody off young with something, anything, but especially something addictive, they're going to show the signs right away. They're going to get angry when the screen goes away, like right away.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they probably wouldn't eat for a very long time.
Yeah. I remember she would be my sister-in-law, my brother's wife. That's how that works, right? Yeah. I never call her that. I
I know, it's kind of a funny
I just don't
term.
want to say her name, but yeah, she used to have trouble with my nephew for that exact reason. He'd be like, you have to eat. Stop. You have to eat.
Was that with video games or just like screen time in general?
I think it was iPad games.
Okay. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is weird.
It's nuts. It's really nuts.
And especially when I see these like 2-3-year-old kids and they know exactly how to navigate an iPad. I'm like, what other skills could you have learned?
Yes.
Because their brains are so elastic at that time as well.
Yep.
That there's so many other things they could have done.
Easily.
And it's like, what are they... Like, kids learn a lot by observing.
Yeah.
And studying people and faces and listening to languages. So what are they missing out on when they're dedicated to that screen?
Very true. Very true. And when I say easily, like, I mean it. It would be easier for them versus me to like learn if they were like watching someone who's like a blacksmith or someone that's like a plumber.
You just absorb things so much better.
Yeah, they would be able to get right into it so
Their
much easier.
neuroplasticity is like the highest it will ever be in their life when they're that young.
Yeah, I literally have to like take things in order for my neuroplasticity to kick in. I have to,
well,
like,
everybody does as an adult. Like, you're pretty much, your brain's fully formed and it is what it is.
Yeah. That's very interesting to think of. What else could Dave learn? Yeah. I think that also when I see social media and I'll see a kid and like their parents, again, some parents are just terrible. And the kid knows like every lyric of a song and they're like dancing. Yeah. And I'm like, they're like 2. They probably step out of that one thing and don't know much else. It's like you could have taught them a language. Yeah. You could have set them up to learn a language. Like, I always talk about it. Like, that one kid lived in my neighborhood, a baby, like the kid. He's literally a baby, like 2 years old. By the time he was 3, he knew 4 languages. Yeah. Because his parents were just like, one grandmother spoke Spanish, His grandfather spoke like, I think it was French or something. His dad would speak Hebrew. Mom would speak English. Boom. It's 5. And he knew Russian because they had a Russian background as well.
That's crazy. But again, you're just like around it, exposed to it. You hear it, you absorb.
Yeah.
And your brain isn't distracted by very high stimulation images.
And you know me, I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, so it's like screen time. There's families who don't even have screens, period. Like we grew up around some real Orthodox Jewish people who were like, we don't have TVs.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, for real? We'd be like, so you don't know
real?
WWF? He'd be like, I don't know what that is. Like, really? We'd be like, what? And then he got it. Oh man, my boy Yeshua. And then he got it. He was able to watch things, but like movies, not TV. And he got so into movies. He'd be like, yo, did you see this movie? You see this movie?
My
I'd be
gosh.
like, yeah, I saw it.
Meanwhile, it's like 20 years old. Yeah.
Exactly. I saw it 5 years ago, bro. Even to this day, every time I see him, he'll be like, yo, have you seen this movie? See, he's so into movies now. Oh man. It's so funny.
That's so funny.
So funny. Oh man. But yeah, what else you got going on?
The other thing I was thinking of is just like the impact on social skills in general. Because like Mark Zuckerberg was talking about that you can still connect with people online and everything like that and like make relationships, but it's also not the same.
Not at all.
Like interacting with a human being face to face and like reading facial cues and picking up on body language and like seeing how they're behaving is so difficult if you don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's why we see so many people with like social anxieties on the rise and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and it's funny that you bring that up because the generation that it's happening to, it's that younger generation.
Yeah.
Whereas my generation, my social anxiety was hiding behind my mom's leg because I was 5.
Yes.
And 6 and 7 and 8, and then I got out of it.
Yeah.
You know, you had those years to do that. This generation doesn't have that part going on. They don't have the part where they get exposed enough to get out of it. So they're showing it when they're 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
And then by that time, it's a diagnosis. And now you can't even touch on them and tell them to get out of it because now all of a sudden you're insulting them.
Yeah. But meanwhile, they're just little weirdos.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I have so much to say about that just based on, because, you know, I've had to do Uber Eats for so many years on and off. And when you would go to universities or colleges, because that's, you know, they're ordering food. I'd stay out late at night. You know what I mean? They do their thing and then they get the munchies and everything. To have to deal with those young people is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Like if you by chance, because they'll literally like just be at the peephole and let you walk up and drop the food. And as soon as you turn around, they'll open the door and like snatch it away like little raccoons.
That's so funny.
But if you happen to be face to face with them, it's just like eyes down.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm that older person to me when I was a kid. That'd be like, how you doing, buddy? You good?
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, jeez, man, you're an adult, bro. What are you
probably
doing?
if you saw like their online presence, it's probably massive.
Oh yeah.
They're probably like talking to people, like commenting, getting in fights, like
in the metaverse,
yeah.
running around.
They got like cat ears on while they're streaming, like you know what I mean? It's just weird.
It's so different. Yeah, that's a big thing.
They don't know how to meet somebody's eyes anymore.
No, and that's a hard thing to work on. I was lucky enough to have to work on it. Yeah, I can do it with you because I love you. Right? But I had to work on it. I had sales jobs. Like I got a sales job. I had to deal with you know me. I had 40 different jobs because I just couldn't hold a job. I didn't like any of them. But my sales job really forced me to have to like get eye contact going.
Yeah.
And like get into that mode of things. And then also being in management and things of that nature. And you're
amazing at talking to people.
Yeah, I got better.
Talk to anybody.
I got better at it.
Yeah.
I got better at it as time went on. That job was a big part of it. Job was a big part of it.
Exposure to people.
Yeah. It's nuts. But yeah, it's a funny thing. It's so funny what a technological advance can stunt you in. Mm-hmm. You know, I think I was talking about this. I think I was mentioning it to your brother. Your brother's younger. And we were talking about the handicap buttons, and you've even
Oh,
talked
yeah,
about
yeah.
this too.
So dumb.
And I was like, when I was young, that was for handicap people.
Yes.
And that's it. No one, if you touched it and you weren't, people would be like, what are you doing? It'd be the same thing as like if you went into like a
handicap parking spot.
handicap parking spot, handicap washroom.
Yeah.
People would be like, that's not for you, man. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you pressing that button for? Your arms work, you're fine. Now it's completely different. It's like it's for everybody. Everybody presses that button.
So, and they just stand there and look at the door if it doesn't work.
We were in the park looking at that man. He pressed it like 6
that was so
times.
funny. And he looked at us like, what?
He was like, what's happening right now? I don't understand. The button's not working. But it's going to get to the point. I was saying to your brother, like, I was like, it's going to get to the point where people can't do it, where they're going to go to try and open the door and that muscle's going to be weak. That's what's going to happen over time if you don't do something. I noticed that when driving, because I have a car where I can like press a thing and it like keeps me in the lanes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to stop doing this. 'Cause when it's off, all of a sudden, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm like, I gotta,
Yeah.
it's so weird what
It's like
these.
me in the backup camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I actively try not to use it. I have it on because it just naturally turns on, but I'll like do the thing and I'll be like, I can't
that's
lose
good.
that. I got to remember, I got to keep that mobility where I look behind me and
Yeah.
like see what's going on. Because yeah, these things really stunt us like
Yeah.
a lot. And I don't want that to happen to our kids,
No, that's true.
you know?
Yeah.
Like you do want them to be able to, you know, as much as you do need technology, like I was talking about how Rogan says he wants his kids to be able to keep up and not be those odd ones out. I feel like technology isn't really the thing you need. I feel like even with the world how it is right now, if you've taught a kid to have charm, you've taught them to make eye contact and know how to speak to people and know how to build rapport and operate with a sense of integrity and be physically inclined or physically fit, I feel like that kid will be fine.
Yeah.
If that kid doesn't have Facebook and Instagram, I think that kid will be just fine.
For sure.
Just based on that.
Yeah.
Because they'll be able to go out and actually do something. Because at the end of the day, even when it comes to technological businesses, when you have to get out there and actually make something of yourself, you're going to have to be in front of people.
Yes.
As much as you're going to do a Zoom interview for an interview and this and that, you're going to have to be in front. The life-changing thing that's going to be in front of you is going to be in front of a person.
Yes.
And you're going to have to be able to speak to that person. You're probably going to have to convince them of something, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to say it's not needed. I know it is, but I feel like you'll be fine without it. I feel like you could be the person who doesn't know about Instagram, Facebook, and God forbid, even TikTok, and still be able to get along in the world.
For sure.
I think.
I think it'd be nice if there was an option for kids to only have social media that's connected to people they know in their real life. Because it's one thing to interact with, like, I don't know, your sister's posts. And your best friend had a video of her dog.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get in fights with people in the comments because you got to
too.
see them the next day.
Yeah, true.
You can't just hide behind a screen. Like, it's still a live interaction that you have to be held accountable for.
Very true.
Instead
Very
of
true.
just talking to people and getting upset and thinking they're horrible because of one opinion
And you
and
don't
then
even
tearing them down.
You don't even know them.
No, it's insane.
You don't even know
And
them.
you leave that exchange feeling good about yourself and all self-righteous.
Yeah.
Whereas if you knew that person, you'd see them the next day and be like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very true. That should be a network. There should be an app that's like a network that's like a platform that's like that. Because it's supposed to be Facebook, but Facebook went out of control.
Yeah.
And you just don't know who's real and who's not. And that's where I'm very torn, because Elon Musk has this idea, and I even see it when you go on the X. There is an option to verify yourself via ID. But it's like, then it takes away this certain layer of privacy that we're all supposed to have. Now all of a sudden you have to give your ID. You're already giving so much when you sign up for these things in terms of the privacy. But then on top of it, you're giving your ID and your address and all this stuff to them. And it's like, ugh. And then you find out, like, in the old Twitter, they were just an extension of the government. And it's like,
True.
Oh my gosh, like, it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's way too much at that point. But at the same time, you're right. If you knew people for sure, like if you knew people in real life, it'd be completely different. Because there's so many people right now. Jordan Peterson talks about this. He talks about how social media breeds a lot of psychopaths because nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows
Yeah.
who you are, really. You can just sign up with a name and just
whatever
go
picture.
off and
Yeah.
just go nuts.
It's true.
Say whatever you want. Right? Whereas if you did that in public, people would be like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
Like, you're insane.
Exactly.
You're an insane person.
Yeah, there needs to be those checks and balances of the social system
Yeah.
that we live in
Yeah.
instead of being able to hide.
100%. 100%. It's a interesting conundrum because I'm not sure which side I'm on. I'm on the side of privacy,
Yeah.
but then also I know that a lot of people wouldn't say the things they say if they were known. That's why I always say to people, and I'm still guilty of getting into it online with people, but I'm like, you can see me. I'm like, you know who I am. You can go to a page where there's hundreds of videos. You can see my face right now. I'm known. I'm out there. And I've been like that since the beginning. I've never had a hidden persona. I don't do that. I just never thought it was, I don't know. I just don't do that. I'm like, you can see me. So it's different when if I'm saying something to somebody, I'm like, you know where I'm at, bro. This is my face. You can see my face.
Yeah.
I wear this hat in public. I stand out. Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people don't do that. But kids, I guess we keep our kids away from it.
Yeah, I think at least as long as we can anyway.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to start hiding things from us either. Because then that would be even worse.
Yeah.
Because then we can't help them through and navigate the pitfalls.
Yeah, right? It's rough. It's a rough thing to deal with.
Yeah. Well, play it as we go.
We're going to shoot for 18. That's what I'm going to shoot for. No
I was
social
going to
media
say
till they're
like
18.
15.
I would say 18. 15,
We'll
you
see.
still can't handle anything. I would say 21. If I could do 21, if we can raise them good enough to stay away until they're 21, that'd be perfect. Because you really don't need it.
No,
You really don't.
but kids are funny.
Yeah.
And teenagers think they're adults and they know everything.
Yeah, right?
So then you got to decide, are you going to fight with your kids or educate them?
True.
We'll
That's
see.
true.
We'll see how it goes.
Sometimes you just give them a little education, you know? That's how my mom used to. My mom actually used to punch me.
Oh my gosh.
She was a full fist lady. I got a old Caribbean mom. She's a full fist type of lady.
Oh gosh.
Punch you.
Punch ya.
Oh yeah. All the time. All the time. If you act it up, you got punches.
Yeah, good old Caribbean punch.
Yeah. Bodybuilder too, right? What else you got on your page?
That's it.
That's it? All right, guys. I was going to say sign up.
Slike.
Like, comment, subscribe, and think about that. Think about those terms and conditions. You know what? Before you go, you have access to ChatGPT. Go to ChatGPT. Go to it, okay? Take the privacy. Take the whole terms and conditions of anything that you're signed up to. Put it into ChatGPT. Tell it to break it down for you in plain English in point form notes, and you'll see exactly what you signed up to, and it will blow your mind. All right, we're out.
Bye.
Bye.